It's very unfortunate to see a game that was so prevalent and so promoted in a massive booming week, seemingly unable to fail a very successful project, fail and fall within a few months. Now, to be fair, this happens to a lot of games and a lot of games that follow this same pattern, and really I think without a doubt this is still probably one of the best in its case. But without further ado, let's talk about MultiVersus, Warner Bros. Super Smash Bros. MultiVersus started its closed beta sometime in July, I believe, a few weeks after more and more people were allowed to play, more and more people were streaming and promoting this game, up until August, I believe, like 22nd, where people were officially allowed to play without a key, invitation, whatever. But this is still considered the beta era of the game, and I fear that might last for quite some time. Multiverse is classed as a couch party styled fighting game featuring characters from all of Warner Bros. Popular IPs, but as of late the game actually hasn't been doing too hot. Despite being free to play, there's not many players compared to when it launched, or entered open beta if you will. Now before anyone jumps the gun and says either MultiVersus is dead or isn't, there's a few things we have to lay down when determining whether or not the game is dead. A lot of people will look to player count and just player count, and most times that would work if this game was on one platform and we had access to all of the data, all the players who were actively playing day in day out. That isn't the case for MultiVersus. Due to it being multi-plat, we don't actually know how many people are in total on the game because Microsoft and Sony don't release that information. So using Steam player counts won't be enough, but we can make some assertions from it. Firstly, that there is a bare minimum of 3,040 people that entered the game as of today, October 28th, and the number cannot be lower than that. Other sites may attempt to track Xbox and PlayStation player counts by using a monthly statistic of hours played, but that uses a relatively small sample size of people, so I don't plan on relying on that data anyway. So we have 3,000 people, or 3,040 if you will, as the base number of people per one platform. If we multiply that by 3, we get 9,120 people in a 24-hour peak, which is a decent amount of people. Certainly not warranting a dead game, but keeping that in mind, it's not performing well per se. That number barely crosses top 200 games on Steam, sorted by current player count, which on Steam is about 2,800 people right now. So looking at the data, we can tell that this game isn't dead. If you need more data or if you need more examples, you can head over to the MultiVersus Reddit, either one is fine, and you can see that there are thriving posts in there. But to explain why there was a huge drop off from the game's open beta release to now, we can easily see a few things that happened. Firstly, and probably the easiest anyone can see, is that this game is a gimmick. I'm sure everyone caught the reference to Super Smash Bros., as that is the undisputed king of this genre, and the genre being this sort of platformer fighting game, and Gimmick being that it is formed of two already well-established ideas and putting them into one. In this case, it was the fighting genre already well-established and has a king on Steam, and adding a small element to change the game just enough to be different, i.e. Warner Bros. IP. The problem with doing this is that you have to draw from the base that already is established and make them play your game instead of that one. I would call this a gimmick because the only thing that's different is the Warner Bros. IP, and there's not really an incentive to leave their already established standing with the other game. Pairing this with the second reason, being that it is free to play, there's even less of a reason to stick around when there's no money attached. Not that being a free to play game is a bad thing, but when people don't spend money on a game, they are less likely to come back because they can pick it up and drop it within a few days. I respect though going free to play was a smarter move considering what happened to All-Star Brawl. There's like 10 people online right now because the game cost $50. There isn't enough reason for people to ditch, say, Brawlhalla because they want to play with Nickelodeon characters, and part of the reason MultiVersus is still okay right now is because it is free. There's a short list of other things that caused MultiVersus to flop, but I'm just going to pick 2 more examples. Well, 2.5, because I have to question why the hell they didn't start with the Teen Titans, or at least having a focus on one of them being in the game. It was leaked that they were working on Raven, but that was 2 months ago when the game was still, I think, in closed alpha. Recent character additions have been cult classic from Warner Bros. Productions, and a newer character, Black Adam, who is gaining popularity now. The idea that not even a lick of new information on a single Teen Titans member is an inconceivable fumble. Gremlins, The Secret of Mogwai, and Black Adam are newer productions, but that makes it seem like they are just riding the hype with these characters, not looking for any sort of establishment or any sort of returning fan base. Well, that's just a little bit of my opinion. That's not really a big reason why the game would fail. If we talk mechanically, the game was mediocre at best. On release, the game barely resembled an idea of a fair fight. There were attacks that obviously should not have hit. Given the space where the animation acted, it was laughable that it made it past testing. It's almost as if player first games didn't even study their competition and see what exactly the design should be. This is probably one of the major causes of the fall. Why play a game in an extremely inconsistent setting when you have one that already works? And to be fair, it did not have to be perfect on release. Obviously, the established kings of this genre were not perfect on release, but given that there's already so much data coming from other games, it really shouldn't have been this way. Even after the dust had settled and the game was already on its downtrend, releasing the Hurtbox Redux was an embarrassment, because at last we got to see a smidgen of frame data, and it was unbelievable that they thought this was a good idea. They only showed the comparison here for Wonder Woman, but I would love to see what it would look like for Iron Giant. Even with that aside, we still don't know what the hitboxes look like, so be ready for that if they ever come out. Another thing to note about this is that it's evident the data is there. It is 100% possible to display the frame data, at least for the Hurtboxes, and player first games chooses not to, for whatever reason. I'm sure this isn't a one-off and it really can display the hitboxes, but I feel like those are also too embarrassing to release. And to that I would say it really doesn't matter. I think it's better to have the data out there so that people can study and determine their actions in certain encounters, even if it may be broken, than to not know it all. And when you pair this stuff with netcode issues, it's really evident that this game mechanically was not sound on open beta release. Moving on to the fourth and final reason this game didn't do as well, you could probably tell that this isn't a big game with a big team behind it. There are likely not enough people working for player first games, and whether it be contractors or otherwise, to keep up with the fast-paced requests and demands of the community that they made a game for. Being honest here, there were likely a lot of people who saw that the Hitbox Hurtbox Redux was not coming soon and jumped ship immediately. And the same could be said with its other issues, like the servers not being able to handle as many people. Within a 10-game frequency, there's an intense ping difference, makes it kinda hard to play. Of course, they're steadily updating and very committed to improving the game as it is now. They're just going at a much slower pace. And unfortunately, we live in a world of instant gratification. But with all these things put together, it's easy to see that a game with such a high promotional value had an intense drop-off. In the July-August time, this game was on top of Steam charts for multiple days, and now it's lost 90% of its viewer base. Now, a final concluding question is, will this game die? While I don't have faith this game will go on to be a genre titan, I don't see it dying very soon. There's a nice rally of support behind it, but obviously that won't last forever. Player first games will keep improving the game until no one wants to play it anymore, or they reach the state of perfect equilibrium where they just keep adding new characters and balancing those, but that's highly unlikely, I think. In any case, I don't think it's honest to say the game is dead right now, although some people may feel that way looking at the difference between peak player count and concurrent player count. But I don't have anything else to say. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What really happened to MultiVersus, and will it die soon? Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to pick yourself up a new watermelon. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next one.